Welcome to the Joy Unleashed Project, where we explore the art and science of living a vibrant, purposeful life after 45. I'm your host, Mattie, and I'm here to guide you through transformative conversations that will ignite your inner brilliance. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the transformation framework, sharing powerful stories, expert insights, and practical strategies that help dynamic women, just like you, embrace this exciting chapter of life. Whether you're navigating a teenager at home, an empty nest, caring for aging parents, or all of the above, or you're simply ready to prioritize your own joy, you're in the right place. Get ready to unlock new possibilities, build meaningful connections, and create the vibrant future you deserve. This is more than just a podcast. It's your invitation to join a community of bold women who are rewriting the rules of midlife. Let's unleash your joy together. Hey, Joy Unleashed family, and welcome back to Joy Unleashed. I'm your host, Mattie, and I help women over 45 trade their what now for what's next. Most women this age feel like they spent decades living for everyone else and have lost their own spark. I coach them to reclaim their identity and design a second act that's actually fueled by their own passions, not just the obligations that everybody else has for them. And today we're going to dive into a topic that feels a little bit like a confession for many of us. If you're a woman over 45, I want you to take a deep breath and look at your to-do list. How much of that list actually belongs to you? This is one of my favorite exercises, and if you listen to the podcast, you've heard me probably say this multiple times, to do with my clients, is to have them make out their to-do list or look at their to-do list and not only figure out what's on their list that belongs to them, what's on their list that belongs to someone else, but what has gotten checked off first, because 9 times out of 10, it's everybody else's stuff. And how much of it is you carrying the emotional or physical load for your adult children, your aging parents, your teenagers, your spouse, or even that colleague who just can't seem to get it together? We've been the fixers, the rescuers, the one who swoop in before the crisis even hits. But what actually happens when the hero hangs up her cape? Today, we're talking about the messy, beautiful, and radical act of stopping the rescue mission of everybody else. So we're going to be honest. Rescuing feels good at first. It makes us feel needed. It makes us feel powerful. Society tells us that being a good woman means being a martyr. For many of us, we're fixers. We get a high off fixing other people's problems. We're good problem solvers. It's one of our talents. That's why we're very high functioning. We're very good at our jobs. It's because we like fixing for other people because we're really good at it. And the reality is it keeps us from having to focus on ourselves and what we need to fix for ourselves. By 45, 50, or 60, that hero high starts to feel like a lot like chronic fatigue. When you spend your life as a human safety net, 2 things happen. 1, you're exhausted. Not just need a nap exhausted, but soul deep depleted. I hear this from my clients a lot, that they just are tired. Medically, everything's fine, but they're exhausted. The second thing is the people you're rescuing never learn to swim. And I want to be really clear about this, and I want to say it again. The people you're rescuing never learn to swim. By fixing every problem, you're inadvertently telling the people you love that you don't think they're capable of doing it themselves. It's a heavy burden for you, and it's a disservice for them. I have a 15-year-old child. He has gotten really good about saying to me, you doing that for me says to me that you don't think I can do it for myself. And that's in my language and not 15-year-old language. But this is a very important thing, not only for our children, but for our spouses and for the people in our lives, is that if we don't let them fail, if we don't let them try things themselves, they will never think they can do it themselves, and we hurt their confidence. So while you think you're helping, you're not only doing disservice to them, you're also doing a disservice to yourself. So you decide to stop. You stop making the phone calls for them. You stop paying the bills they forgot. You stop managing their moods. And what happens next? I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It gets really uncomfortable really fast. It's really hard when we are high-functioning women and we've been trained in our lives to take care of other people to watch people fail. But here's something I want you to hear me say. Failure is just actually the first attempt in learning. If we don't fail, we don't learn. And when you stop and think about your own life, I know for me, my biggest lessons that I had taken with me in my adult years and that have become my wisdom have been my failures. And so when you stop, it becomes really uncomfortable. And there will be silence. There might be some guilt tripping from other people. You'll hear things like, "You've changed," or "I thought I could count on you." This is called an extinction burst. That moment when the people around you realize the old system is broken and they try to pressure you back into your old role. They're uncomfortable with the change. They're uncomfortable not thinking that they can do it themselves. And so they try to guilt you or get you to maneuver you back into the old role. But stay there and be steady, because on the other side of that silence is where the magic really happens. On the other side of that guilt trip is where the magic. Here's what actually happens when we stop rescuing, when we stop trying to fix everything for everybody. The spaces suddenly open up. Suddenly your brain isn't 100% occupied by other people's emergencies. You start noticing things like what you want for dinner, not what everybody else wants. Or that hobby you dropped in 2008, you start thinking about maybe you have time to do that now. You'll watch with a mix of shock and as the people you used to save actually start figuring things out. They're going to stumble, but they're going to survive. They're going to struggle, but they're going to learn how to do it on their own. The reality is that we like to think that the earth is going to suddenly stop spinning if they forgot to pay a bill or if they didn't make it to the doctor on their own. The reality is that usually the earth is never going to stop spinning for those things and nothing drastic is going to happen. So let's play this out, because what our brains like to do is it likes to jump to the worst case scenario possible. Let's say that our adult child hasn't paid their bill yet. We still have access to their bank account. That's a whole other thing that we need to talk about. And we see that they did not pay their light bill. And so we're starting to wonder, wait a minute, I need to remind them to pay their bill. What happens if you don't pay it? The lights go out. Guess what? Then they have to deal with how to turn it back on. And that's the consequence, the natural consequence that helps them learn how to do things themselves. The other thing that happens is our own resentment of taking care of everybody else dissolves. This is something I think it's really important, because a lot of times my clients come in and they're really mad at other people and their dependence on them. But guess what? The hard truth is you did that yourself. So we have to unwind that and take their dependence and give it back to them. It doesn't belong to you, but it's hard. But what we do is when we're really mad about those things is that we resent people. We resent that you have that expectation of me. It's hard to be bitter when you aren't doing things that you want to do. It's hard to be bitter when you're not taking care of everybody else. Your relationships actually get healthier because they're based on choice, not obligation. So we're going to reclaim your joy. This is the unleashed part of our show. When you stop being the rescuer, you finally have the energy to be the explorer. This stage of life, 45 and beyond, is meant to be your second act. It's the time to ask, who am I when I'm not being useful to someone else? The joy that comes from that answer is more stable and more authentic than any thank you you've ever received for fixing a crisis. So we're going to put this into practice. What does this look like? It looks like for our young adults, if they come to you and they say, "Mom, I can't pay my bill," instead of saying, "Well, I'll do that for you," you can say, "Well, why don't you figure out what you should do and what you think you should do and then come back to me and I'll help you solve it." Do you see the difference? And you're teaching them how to do it themselves. When your spouse goes to the grocery store and calls you and says, "I'm not sure what green beans to get," actually say to them, "Just get some green beans." If they get the wrong green beans, one, who really cares? But two, it's not the end of the world. And maybe they'll learn to not call you every time they go to the grocery store. If it's your teenager, which is really hard to find that balance between how do I help you navigate this world and how do I teach you to do it on your own? You have to teach them to fail. And I'm going to be real about this. I have a 15-year-old son. It is very hard watching him struggle. It is very hard watching him fail. But when I allow him to do that, not because it's uncomfortable for him, but because I don't like watching him fail and it's uncomfortable for me. When I allow him to fail, he learns so much from the failure. And we can then have some really great conversations about how do we pick up those pieces. If it's an aging parent and they're calling you nonstop, it may be that you just don't answer the phone. It may be that when they call and say, "I don't know what to do about this," you say things like, "Maybe what would you have told me to do?" Like, instead of fixing everything for them, how about having them figure out how to fix it themselves? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great, but how do I actually say no without my world imploding? How do I actually make sure that I'm able to stick to the concept of having people do things for themselves and figure it out? Setting boundaries after a lifetime of saying yes is a skill. And like any skill, you need a roadmap. For those of you that have been around, you know that I always say boundaries are the foundation of all of this. So all these things that we talked about today are really about boundaries. It's saying, wait, I'm going to stop and put myself first. Wait, I feel uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean I have to fix all this stuff. Wait, I'm going to pause before I say yes or I jump into fix. But it's a skill that most of us have not learned. If you're ready to put down the weight of everyone else's expectations and finally reclaim your schedule, your peace, and your spark, I invite you to join our signature program, Boundaries Unleashed. This isn't just about saying no, it's about saying yes to yourself and giving you the tools you need to say no to other people without guilt and without shame. You get the exact scripts, the mindset shifts, and the community support you need to transition from the rescuer to the woman in charge of her own joy. Check the link below at mattiecummins.com and start living and stop rescuing. Thank you for listening to the Joy Unleashed podcast. Remember, you aren't responsible for the fixing the world. You're responsible for being fully alive within it, and I'll see you next time.